Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at Mikael Ross's Golden Boy, a story of Beethoven's youth. This is out from Fantagraphics. Last year I got Mikael Ross' book, The Thud, and loved it. I think it was one of my books of the year. Beautiful book. So I was really excited to get another Mikael Ross book. And this one is like right there in terms of the cartooning. Story-wise, not as touching, I think, as The Thud, but a really fun piece of cartooning. So this is obviously all about Beethoven's youth. We get introduced to Beethoven here as Ludi, and he's here. He's kind of being cruel, picking on his brothers. Really fun cartooning throughout. A lot of nice like dry brush textures and a lot of like really good scratchy pen lines to go with that. Those two things come together real nice. And then the coloring's pretty nice and flat, so it lets the line work speak for itself. But you do get some where you have some like texture divisions and things. I think in terms of like coloring with the computer, which is what this looks like to me, this is really nice computer coloring. It still preserves some of the things that are nice about like coloring with gouache using the old blue line process or something like that. And then production wise, because those two things are separate, it really lets them keep all of the textures of the dry brush and everything that might get a little bit lost. The quality of the lines are nice and crisp because it does not look like this is all painted on the same thing here. Beethoven is also going on to get picked on. So he's being cruel to his brothers, but he's being picked on as well. You can see these kids actually urinate on him, beat him up, give him a real butt whooping there. But he's known as like a prodigy. And the name Golden Boy is because in this he's like 7. His father is selling him as 6, and his father keeps calling him his Golden Boy because he's using his like massive prodigy talent to then monetize his kid. There's some really beautiful renditions of here. Again, a great mixture of like this has physical medium on it. So I don't know, maybe this is physical coloring, but it looks digital to me. But there are some really good layering, I think, of physical mediums that are probably layered together digitally that allow for these beautiful moments that just show like the music flowing through someone. And if you play music and you've ever had like that real flow state in the pocket experience where the music's just flowing through you, like that's what it feels like. And man, is it good. There's a reason that people get addicted to playing music, and that showed so well here. And I can't even imagine for someone like Beethoven, who it really does just flow out of them, or someone like Elton John, where it's just like music just pours out of them at the highest level. You can see that here in that rendering. I think it's great. A lot of the story is about like how he's being abused by his father, and then also like in this sequence here how passionate he still is, even though his skill is being sold off. He's running off and trying to get to these lessons that he's sneaking off to because he still wants to study with masters and become better. There are some moments in here, like these two images right here, where they're more expressing his emotional states, his sorrow or his anger, where like for some reason I kept coming back to Dave Cooper. Like there seems to be an influence there just in how the wobbly eyes. I don't know if there's another touch point that both artists would be influenced by, but that came to mind a lot while reading that. I don't remember seeing that in the Thud. But like with the Thud, the cartooning in here and the acting and your sympathy for the characters because of all the great acting in the cartooning is really, really ramped up. Like in this sequence here, Beethoven's being brought in front of all these adults to perform, and all this pressure's on him. And so he has a panic attack. And I think that, like, things going wobbly at the edges is rendered pretty well in his expression there as he falls and hits his face on the floor. Like, that's all for being not like the most bombastic page layout or anything. It's still no like real crazy formal tricks, anything like that. The panels aren't getting totally weird. They get a little wobbly. I think it's still such a good cartoonist that just this pose alone is, to me, is like, yeah, that's what it feels like. We also meet Jeanette, who seems to be a love interest for Beethoven. There are a lot of things in this book where they're very much about like Beethoven having bowel issues. That's something that like there's a lot of stuff in here about the characters. Like here he's being introduced to two more characters, Eleanor and the Bruning family. I don't know how authentic all of this is as a biography. There's not anything like you normally get in a project like this in the back that kind of fills all of this out, and it gets, especially towards the end of the book, as like the scatological stuff ramps up, it gets a little hard for me to believe. So Beethoven escapes to Vienna, and he's gonna go. He wants to track down Mozart. He wants to train with Mozart, and he's going out, and he needs the shit, and so he like is gonna shit over the bridge. You can see him hanging his ass off here. And then this woman stands there with these buckets and like this thing where you can shit in public so you're not pooping in the water. And like he's there and she's cool with it. And he makes friends with this, like, hey, you can come poop here, lady. And then a later day, he runs into Mozart, who she also knows and who also frequents her services. And so he meets Mozart there at the shitting lady thing on the bridge. And like that just seems like that would be a more widely known story if Beethoven and Mozart met at the public shitter. I don't know. And then there's like other points that come up where like this stomach issue he has crops up. So that's something I'm gonna have to look up. I should have looked it up before I did this, but I had my stack and I wasn't thinking about it. So I don't know. I did, after reading the book, I went to Beethoven's Wikipedia and I didn't see anything in there about how they met or whatever. And then here, like, you get to see that he finally gets to be mentored by Haydn. And it says, tell him that our young Beethoven will receive the spirit of Mozart through the hands of Haydn. So I really like that aspect of the book the most, where even though he is like this child actor, you know, child musician with the parent who's abusing them, like we've heard Michael Jackson, Britney Spears, you know, like you hear about those things, that he still like was so passionate about the music. He was seeking down the maestros, the real masters, and it starts to go into a little bit of like his hearing loss, I think, towards the end here, like him having problems with hearing. But yeah, it gives a real, it's more of like a fun and jokey, I think, rather than purely 100% accurate, which makes it a little bit strange to me, and also emotionally was way less compelling than the Thud. But the artwork and the cartooning throughout was all fascinating. And like with any biography that's well produced like this, the things that seem like more unbelievable or more silly or more made up just excites me to go learn more about the actual historical figure. So I'm never someone to complain about people taking liberty with the facts. It's just the focus on the scatological in this one I thought was strange, if that's not an actual part of Beethoven's story. But other than that, like really, really successful piece of comics, and really still sold on Mikael Ross as an artist. So I hope Fantagraphics, I hope there's more to be translated, and I hope Fantagraphics does it, because this is a very different thing from the Thud as well. So to see an artist that has real variety, that's always exciting. So super stoked on Mikael Ross still. The Exile by Eric Creek is a gorgeously illustrated Viking saga of revenge. Eric Creek calls it his Viking Western. It's about a guy who's been away on the warpath and is returning home to some family troubles that have to be resolved. And this is told in just this amazing, like, kind of 3-color art style that looks like old woodblock cuts or something. It's absolutely gorgeous book that you've got to pick up.